Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be working on an abstract painting. For acrylic colors I'll be using white, Prussian blue, yellow and quinacridone magenta. I also have a towel rag to wipe my brushes on, some metallic watercolors, these are by Etcher, and then for watercolors I'm using cad orange, cad yellow, crimson red and cobalt blue. I'm also having a spray bottle and 2 jars of water, one for acrylic and one for watercolor. I have a mop brush, an angle brush, filbert. You can honestly use any brush that you want. I just like to have different shape brushes because when you're working on abstract painting, it's interesting to make different shapes. So to start off with, I have an A3 cold pressed paper and I'll be starting off by wetting the sheet and going in with my cobalt blue first. This is all going to be wet on wet and I'm just slowly applying the blue in different places, and because the paper is wet it's going to bleed and create this lovely soft airbrushed effect. So I'm just going to keep doing this. You can do as much or as little blue as you want. Please feel free to explore and experiment with whatever feels right. Painting is all about following your intuition and your own creative choices. So if something is telling you to paint a little bit more blue or to put it in a certain page, listen to that voice inside your head which is guiding you, because a lot of the times that voice knows what it wants and knows what it likes, and so really try to tune into that side of your creativity. I'm also going in with a little bit of Payne's Grey and Cobalt Blue. This is just to give some more depth and definition to the painting, because when you're painting abstract, it's very easy to create a flat surface. And so we want to create a little bit of difference with value and tones in the colors that we're using. Now with my mop brush, I'm just kind of going in with these very loose and quick strokes. I'm not thinking too much about it, but this is all going to be the first layer of our painting. So it's very kind of fun and loose and you can do whatever you like. You can make the strokes bigger, smaller. It's completely up to you. And I'm also mixing a little bit of orange into my blue because this neutralizes the blue a little bit more and gives a more dark and neutral tone of blue. So I continue doing this whilst the page is all wet, so everything will keep bleeding together. I'm mixing the red and cadmium yellow together to create my orange, and now I'm going in to fill those white spaces in between. They're going to bleed a little bit. If the blue touches the orange, it's absolutely fine. This is just the first layer that we're working with, so we just want to set our base first. A lot of the time it can feel like I'm doing this and it doesn't make any point, but that's exactly how it with layers. Each thing that you do can feel like there's no sense to it, but that is what builds kind of that sense of depth in a painting. So now I've waited until it's completely dry and I'm going in still with watercolor, and I'm going for a second layer of these light florals, and I'm using my angled brush which gives off these really beautiful shapes, and you can kind of cluster them together or you can just do them one by one on their own. It's completely freedom of choice. And then to smooth out the edges of some of these petals, I take my mop brush and just go around the edges very gently, and this is going to cause the color to bleed through and give this soft look instead of this harsh edges. So once you're happy with how your second layer is looking, I've taken my cat tongue brush. Again, if you don't have this brush, it's fine. Any kind of small pointy brush will work as well. And I'm going in and creating these smaller petals and leaves everywhere. Again, this is just building up our second layer slowly by slowly. And now using a filbert brush, which again, if you don't have it, it's okay. You can use a flat brush, you can use a pointy brush. I'm using some of the orange watercolor mix, and I'm again adding some leaves and some petals. Sometimes I like to put them all together, which gives off the impression of a flower, and sometimes I like to separate them or put them in kind of a zigzag motion, which kind of makes it look like a leaf. So now I've let my watercolor layer dry, and I'm now getting my acrylic colors ready. So I'm mixing Prussian blue with a little bit of black here. I think I decided on this last minute, and I'm using the angled brush again, and I just want to go in and create some darkness, because at the moment it's kind of very surface and very pale with the blue, and the acrylic allows us to build something that is going to be very opaque and strong and bold in its color. As I'm painting these florals, I'm not waiting for the acrylic paint to dry. It's actually really nice when you go on top and you just keep adding the paint whilst the acrylic is still wet, because the colors are going to melt and blend into each other, which gives a very soft but also impressive look to the eye, because you can see multiple tones of blue mixed in with the white as well, and they all come together. So this whole layer that we're working on is all whilst the paint is wet, so you're not waiting for anything to be completely dry before you're moving on to the next layer. We're just going to keep on working until you're happy with how it looks. So I just keep going backwards and forwards. Don't forget to take a step back as well from time to time, just to see how it all looks, because you can get lost if you look at it too close. So you want to take a step back and just evaluate your painting and see whether you're happy and if it's missing anything somewhere. Sometimes I'm using a much lighter blue, so I'm using a lot of white and a little bit of blue. I'm now going in with orange acrylic, and I'm going on top of those parts which looked very messy in that first layer. We was mixing it and adding it with the blue, and it looked very kind of almost green grayish because they were bleeding together. But that served us as our base and the map of now. When it's dry, we now know where to go on top with our orange acrylic paint, which is very opaque and will stand out lovely. So I'm using a warm yellow and the red and some white, and I'm not really mixing it all together, so I'm having multiple colors show up in the brush. So when I'm painting it, you're not just getting this flat color, you're getting a color with dimension. Just keep going back and forth with the strokes. Use some lighter orange, use some darker orange, and obviously to finish it off with, I decided to use the orange paint that I had mixed on my palette, and I'm just sprinkling it over by tapping the brush on another one and letting it fall, and I aim for the blue areas. I'm now going in with the gold watercolor. Now this is an extra step. You don't have to do this. If you have gold acrylic paint and you don't have gold watercolor, again, it's completely fine. The beauty of abstract is there is no one way to do this. So you could even do this with completely different colors and it would still look really, really beautiful. That's it. I'm just finishing off with a few more sprinkles. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please subscribe if you are not, and give this video a like so it gets seen by other painters, and I will see you for my next video.